Hello and welcome to No BS Games. I'm Konstantin and today we're looking at Asus Rog Theta Electret headphones, which are these huge guys on my head. We'll cover my general impressions, sound quality in music and gaming, mic quality, the issues they have and ways to minimize them. I'll also share why I thought of returning them but changed my mind. Theta Electret are hi-fi gaming headphones, the first and only gaming headphones featuring Electret drivers alongside discrete neodymium bass drivers. Electret drivers are theoretically more capable in mid and high frequencies, so this product caters to audiophile gamers who want both a good gaming headset and top sound quality. Price-wise, they're around $250 and $300 US. Now, when it comes to headphones and sound in general, there's no universal good or bad, as the same headphones sound incredible for some and horrible for others. So this is only my personal experience and opinion. To give you an idea of my tastes and equipment, before this I've been mostly using Shure SRH 440, which are closed-back monitoring headphones. I like the sound of these, but they aren't too comfortable. I've also recently got Sony WH-1000 XM4, which are top-tier noise-cancelling headphones. I have both a decent integrated sound card on my PC, Asus Supreme FX, and a standalone M-Audio Fast Track Ultra sound card. At first, I tested Theta Electret plugged to the built-in audio, comparing it to Sony XM4s, and I found the sound to be not bad overall, distinctly featuring less bass than Sony while sounding somewhat better in mids and highs. Sony overemphasizes bass, while Electret slightly underemphasizes it, so the difference between the two is very pronounced there. And that was the time when I decided to pack them back up and send back to the shop, because they were just slightly better in mids and highs, but at the same time much less capable in terms of bass. And the difference was so stark that I was quite frustrated with the lack of bass, and didn't really see a point in keeping that. Here it is worth noting that when you compare Electret to other bass-heavy headphones, after getting punched by heavy bass, your ears will likely accommodate to the stress and may be less sensitive to low frequencies, making Electret even less bass capable than it is. So side-to-side comparisons aren't always helpful unless you take your time and give your ears some rest. Anyway, there was still something that I liked about their sound, and the other day I decided to give them another chance and dug up my M-Audio sound card. Having plugged them in, I was quite pleased with the quality, despite still a bit weaker bass than I'd like. Then I plugged them into the built-in motherboard sound card, and was quite amazed at how shallow and sort of compressed the sound was. So, only using a proper dedicated sound card, they start to sound better and use their full potential. It's difficult to describe, but the built-in audio just doesn't sound right. It feels like the sound is behind a door or some sort of veil, not so open and clear. So if you consider buying these, I'd say a dedicated sound card is definitely a must. Otherwise, they won't open up their potential, and coupled with decreased bass, will sound lifeless and not really worth their price. Now, bass is definitely not their strength, yet I wouldn't say they don't have it at all. They do have bass and are capable of reproducing almost all levels of it, except the deepest 20 to 30 Hz bass. It is quite decent, but it's far less emphasized than you would normally see on virtually any gaming headsets or quality mainstream headphones, such as Marshalls, etc. So when you first try these, they may sound pretty crappy, to be honest, especially if you listen to music that heavily relies on bass. But I must say, and that's again my personal feeling, that the not as emphasized bass actually sounds better in many songs, as it provides much more detail And when you hear some deeper bass, you actually start to appreciate it, as it's not all over the place, like in other headphones where bass is basically everywhere. For instance, in XM4s, it sounds like the bass guitar is playing closer to you and all the other instruments are somewhere behind. Electret sounds much more neutral, and despite the fact that most people would probably say the bass sucks, I think I understand what the designers of this headset wanted, as they were making a headset for those that are hungry for detail, not a headset with bass overshadowing everything else. To be honest, I would appreciate it if they were able to reproduce more of those deepest lows at 20 Hz without overemphasis, but I still find myself listening to these more often than Sony XM4s. I also found a partial workaround for the bass issue by installing Dolby Atmos. Using Dolby Atmos in music mode with the equalizer set to detailed preset was the only type of software improvement that didn't distort the sound but rather slightly enriched it, in particular in terms of bass. I found it well worth the price for me. Theta Electret appears to have a decent soundstage, at least when comparing to my Shure and Sony. Listening to samples from AMD True Audio or playing squad in these somewhat feels a bit more spacious, more detailed. I suppose fully open headphones would be even better in this department, but if you don't want everyone in the room to hear what you're listening to, half-open design like this might be a good compromise. I haven't played too much yet, but overall I was pleased with the sound quality in games, and I didn't really feel like I missed additional bass too much. Of course, if you're already used to heavy bass headphones, you may feel like their performance is a bit underwhelming in explosions, but I'm happy with their detail and quality of sound. Apart from that, having less emphasis on deep bass allows me to crank up the volume about twice as high as I'd normally do, and still not to have blood dropping from my ears, which provides a much more immersive experience in the first place and enables you to hear much more of useful sounds, such as footsteps and other enemy activity. The mic makes you sound somewhat robotic and isn't too good overall. Has a poorly made plastic switch behind the left ear cup. On the positive side, it can be easily detached and reattached. Well, almost easily. And it is very good at not picking up background noise from the environment. I can use it on meetings with children playing in the room without worrying too much that my voice will drown in the noise. Only very loud talking or screaming is picked up, but it is still somewhere in the background, so overall I'm satisfied with it. Only very loud talking or screaming is picked up, but it is still somewhere in the background, so overall I'm satisfied with it. But why did you actually decide to keep these, you will probably ask me. First of all, despite their half a kilo weight, they are comfortable to wear for a few hours. I've always had an issue with headphones pressing against my ears uncomfortably. This isn't the case for me with Theta Electret. Here I must also warn you not to use the alternative, deeper and softer ear cups, because the bass just completely disappears if you switch to those. Back to positive things, I also discovered that less heavy bass actually allows me to listen to music for much longer, as overemphasized bass, while pretty appealing, makes me tired pretty quickly and causes headache, so I can listen to music in Theta Electret longer than before. Apart from this, decreased bass coupled with detailed mids and highs makes me want to re-listen to all my music playlists, as everything sounds different, and in many cases it's more appealing than before. I must admit that some songs do sound worse than in heavy bass headphones, For instance, the Kidney Thieves band just doesn't make any sense in Theta Electret. Basically, those songs that didn't really have any additional detail to offer and relied heavily on bass as their main appeal will in many cases become uninteresting. I also liked the build quality of Theta Electret, as my Shure headphones plastic already cracked a few times and I had to glue them together. I don't see this happening with Theta Electret, as most of it is aluminum and well built overall. I also appreciate the noise reducing mic, which is more than enough for gaming or online calls, but not so good for serious streaming or recording, as you've probably heard. I also feel like these headphones reproduce game environment in more detail, allowing for better immersion. Obviously, they also have zero lag, unlike wireless XM4s, and allow for longer sessions, unlike my Shure SRH 440, which press my tender ears too tight. When I crave for heavy bass too much, I can still get my XM4s and satisfy my craving. So having a differently sounding, comfortable headset is great for me, making it my default choice in most scenarios. So, should you buy these? I would recommend buying these for people who are not into bass-heavy music, or who already have some other bass-capable headphones like myself, and they want to hear more detail in music and games combined with broader soundstage than enclosed-back headphones. These aren't ideal in a few areas, especially in bass, but for their price, they provide a solid built headset with great detailed sound, decent, while not perfect noise-reducing mic, and comfortable ear cups. At the same time, I feel like most people will hate me for recommending these, as the majority of gamers and potential buyers prefer bass and are used to headphones with the emphasis on bass. Moreover, headphones like Sony XM4s cost around the same price and compete in sound quality with Electret, unless you already have or are willing to buy a dedicated audio card, which is of course another expense. I forgot to write the ending line, so I don't really know how to end this. So, how do you end this? The end. This is the end. End of story.